Okay, awesome. We are live. Okay, so thank you to everybody who is either watching the replay, joining us live, or seeing this on the Facebook group. Today we have a very special guest, Ray with Bob Moses of Bob Moses Ceramic Coating in Austin, Texas. How are you, Ray?
Good. How are you doing, Salvador?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for making the time again. But yeah, before we dive into everything that we're going to talk about today with like A to Z on creating a script, I want to talk about your background real quick, just to touch on it. There's a lot of new faces in here since the first time you joined us. But can you give us a quick rundown on what life was like before you got into the ceramic coating business?
Yes, I'm probably the least experienced when it comes down to detailing or ceramic coating, but my previous experience comes from I spent most of my life as a business growth specialist. So growing businesses is what I do. Ceramic coating is just another product. So in the past, I spent 7 years in the finance industry regarding business credit, setting up LLCs, trusts. But when I got involved with Bob Moses ceramic coating, man, I have yet to find a product that I enjoy more than what we're doing. I mean, I love it. Love every minute
Awesome.
of it. Hey, in
So what,
Salvador, real quick,
yeah,
we started on March 17th. So we've been working at this for a year and 2 months today.
yes.
Pretty,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So real quick, before we get into like how you and I got in touch and everything that's happened since then, what got you into the ceramic coating business?
so a friend of mine, Matt, one of my best friends, he's started doing ceramic coating, but his niche was doing RVs and nobody in Arizona was doing RVs. And so I watched him grow this business from his simple location. He started out of his garage to franchising to a second location in Mesa, Arizona. Then I watched it grow to Las Vegas, California, Dallas. We're in Austin. We just opened up a new one in St. George, Utah. We've got Idaho. We're growing. So currently we've got 10 locations and we do about $1 million a month in business.
Okay. Awesome. So would you be able to walk us through how you and I got in touch and then what kind of, I guess, the journey that has kind of happened since
So
then?
So I watched Matt grow this business. He's done a phenomenal job at it. And so I wanted to be a part of it. And so when we decided to launch this company, Matt did a really good job as a franchise, as him being corporate, making sure I had enough business to start the shop. But once we began going through that amount of business right up front, I needed to figure out advertising really quick. And so we did our first ceramic coating job on March 7th. So within 2 weeks, I needed an advertising company and needed an advertising agency. And I previously have used an advertising agency for 7 or 8 years. They're more on a global basis, but they don't have boots on the ground like you do. They on a global basis, they'll advertise for large, corporate companies like Gillette, but they don't know the first thing about what attracts a client to ceramic coating or detailing. And so I wanted someone a little bit more specific, an advertising agency that dealt specifically with an industry, and that's where we got together.
Awesome. Awesome. So walk me through the first month after we started working together and then kind of the numbers and the growth since then. So walk me through
So
that first year.
the first 6 months I booked everything myself for a couple different reasons. It's I needed to make sure that what I was saying over the phone, I had to develop scripting because I didn't come into this with someone going, here, say this. Honestly, I didn't know a whole lot about paint correction or what even the term paint. I've always heard buffing and polishing, but so we did a crash course on it, and in the last a year we've completed 588 cars as of today. 588 units. That's a combination of motorcycles, RVs, boats, and vehicles. I've got a little over 110 cars on my books going forward. I've got 27 cars in the shop right now. So a lot of what we've done the first 6 months, I booked it myself, but this is getting to the scripting part. But I had to figure out in the first 6 months exactly what to do or to say to turn a quote into an actual car at my shop. So I spent 6 months doing that myself. I think the very first months with a very small budget, we did about $12,000 to $15,000. Second month, we pushed 25,000 to 30,000. By summertime, last summer, I was doing on average about 50,000 in books myself. I did that back to back a couple months, but I had the scripting. I knew exactly what to say to pique a customer's interest. So the business side of it, not the scripting doesn't have a whole lot to do with the detail side of things. But the scripting has to do with how you get your sale, how you book your job, when your customer shows up. Obviously there's a little bit of negotiation in everything that we do in life, So, but all that I had it done within 6 months. And so at that point, my growth really took off when I decided to hire professional salespeople. And fortunately, coming from a finance background, I had 5 to 7 previous employees that I actually just moved from my finance business into detail, and they slayed it. They kill it at this. It's an easier product. It's a happier customer. The results are it's a lot of gratification comes to doing this. Our customers, they brag about how good of a job we do. Our reviews show it, and then we do so much repeat business and referral business that obviously we're doing something right. So,
Yeah,
but
100%.
numbers wise, this is taking myself out of like the detailing and putting myself in like my business hat on. Numbers wise, this is a phenomenal product. If you're advertising, Salvador, let me brag about you for a second. So I don't do any advertising outside of Salvador. We do a lot of repeat business because we do a lot of things in shop. But with you this past February, so let's talk about February 2023, March, and April. Let's talk about those 3 months. So February, Salvador, we spent $8,900 on advertising. So let's call it 9,000, but we actually booked and completed $142,000 worth of business. So turning $9,000 into $142,000, that just makes sense. In March, we spent $10,500 on advertising, but we flipped that into $137,000 in completed business. April, we spent $9,400 and flipped that into $151,000. So if you just do the math behind your advertising, Salvador, in 3 months we pulled $430,000 worth of business, spent $29,000 on advertising, and that just means that your advertising versus revenue is less than 7%, and that is
Love
awesome.
it. Yes.
Starting this thing, I just thought if there's any way that we could take 10% of gross to cover advertising. And so my expectations going into this, I would have been happy at 10%, spending 10% of gross, but we're actually spending 6.7%, less than 7%. So to take that one step further, our average ticket at our shop, we do a lot of automobiles. Our average ticket's around $2,200, but it just goes to show that if you spent 7% of gross, it brings in $2,200 jobs. Anyway, at the end of the day, worth it all day long. We're expanding into a third location just in Austin. So even though Matt has 11, in Austin, we started with about 3,000 square feet. We added another 1,400 square feet. We're about to add another 2,500 square feet. So what you do, Salvador, is completely scalable. If we wanted to jump up to $200,000 a month, it's scalable. It would not be hard.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good combination of what we're going to talk about today, the scripting, which we'll get into here shortly, and video content. I think both of those go hand in hand at basically duplicating the success that you've seen along with other clients with this formula. It's very simple, right? At a very high level, it's just about educating leads, right? We'll go into more detail on that on the second half of this call, but right now, let's go ahead and just dive right into the scripting. So Ray, why is scripting important versus just, giving them the price up front, having price be the main driver of the conversation versus just kind of teeing it up to pricing?
So first thing is the pricing is what everyone says. So when people talk to myself or one of our reps, what makes us different is the amount of time we put into each customer. And I'm sure everyone else does that too. So I'm just talking about the average Joe Smo working out of a pickup truck. Typically they spout out a price because they're more into the detailing side of things than the sales or booking side of things. So I completely understand. I mean, I actually and my sales guys, we come from a sales background. So it's tough to take a detailer and make them a salesperson. But scripting is probably the key to turning a detailer into a very good salesperson, because once you learn your scripting, you can repeat it over and over and over and over. So what's important is that what you're repeating over and over and over is exactly right. So when it comes down to scripting, the amount of time, I'll just kind of go over the way we do it. Salvador, I think my guys and you, we have a very similar scripting in the fact that, we kind of work hand in hand together. Mine might tailor a little bit more towards Bob Moses, where you might have a script that might tailor more towards other people.
Right.
But When it comes down to scripting, your introduction is everything. You only have one shot to make a good your first impression, right? So we ask a lot of questions, and I'm sure everyone else does, but I'm just looking at our scripting here, and some of the questions we already know the answers to, but you want that affirmation, you want that yes, you want that conversation piece going. So just asking how you doing today, it's a simple, they're going to say fine. If you ask simple things like what color is your vehicle, it comes in the lead. I know what color their vehicle, but it's a great talking point just to get a two-way conversation. The problem with some salespeople is always they're usually the ones doing all the talking. So at this point, you want to talk about their vehicle, and so when it comes down to it, what color is your vehicle? How long have you had it? If it's brand new, congratulate them, ask them how they like it. Also, do you remember how you heard about us? I already know the answer to how they heard about us, whether it's a referral or Facebook, through Salvador. But I want that. I want them to express that. Again, it's another talking point. I always ask, have you seen our videos or have you seen our pictures online? I already know the answer to that. But again, it's that good conversation. It's where it's a two-way street. Second of all, once you've gotten past your introduction, I think it's super, super important. And this might be a difference or an advantage that we have, is our sales guys are always in front of a computer. And a detailer might not be able to have a computer in front of them at all times, but you do have your phone, and quotes should not take 2 minutes. I mean, it's tough to pull a $2,500 sale if you're a minute and a half on the phone. So you have to be able to take the time. But the turning point is your introduction. How you doing? What color's your vehicle? How'd you hear about us? Then you go into a huge, huge deal. And this is, I don't think enough companies or people do it, but we always say, and it says it right there, I always like to start out by Googling your vehicle. This way I know exactly what's in your driveway. And so, within a matter of seconds, I can look up a 2019 Dodge Ram 3500. I know in a split second, I know the actual color of their paint. If it's blue, I'll tell them what color blue it is. I know everything from the 0 to 60, the towing capacity on that truck, all that's available in Google in a split second. So I think your customer having confidence in, their vehicle. I know if it's got racing stripes, I know if it has 635 horsepower or 280 horsepower. All that information is right in front of your hands. So I think what we do to kind of just knock it out of the park from the beginning is we know exactly what they have in their driveway because it's right on the screen in front of us. So once you've gotten that down, it also eliminates, well, let me bring it to you. Let me send you
Utah and North Carolina.
Sorry about that.
So anyways, just knowing exactly what they have in their driveway. Then the next thing is, and this is super important, I hope everyone catches this, but you definitely want to compliment them on their vehicle. They bought their vehicle. They spent their money on the vehicle. You can't sell them on a $1,500 ceramic job or a $2,000 ceramic job unless you remind them how much they love their vehicle. And so we kind of go over a thing, you got their vehicle in front of you on their computer screen. Go over, you compliment them on anything and everything about their vehicle, compliment them on the color, compliment them on, some of these classic cars are 100% keepers. Everyone loves their vehicle for a particular reason. So if you remind them how, I had people, they call their cars their baby. There's a lot of reasons why, if you build value in what they have. And when I say that, like, some of my sales guys would be like, oh my God, you got a 2017 Hummer? Seriously? You got a Hummer? And that right there, it's like it makes them, pride of ownership, put it that way. So then we go into the rest of it, and that's just taking the time to explain the very next part after we get done with knowing exactly and complimenting on their vehicle and, asking questions about their paint, condition of the paint, that kind of stuff, how they wash and maintain their vehicle. Once you get a little bit past that, then we want to take the time to explain exactly what's going to happen when you drop your vehicle off to us.
So quick question, how long do you spend in that building rapport phase?
Well, here in Texas, these people talk all day. So we have no problem taking the time to, there's Texas, we've got good old boys here. And these people, they're one thing different about Texas, being kind of like a career sales for most of my career. Every state's a little bit different, but in Texas, they're people of their word. If they say they're going to call you back in 5 minutes, they call back. They say they got to talk to their wife, they kind of have to talk to their wife, they're straight up. So, but in your intro, you could spend anywhere from 1.5 minutes getting to know them, their vehicle, to 5 minutes. Again, these people, they want to, not only do they want to quote, but they want to talk about their vehicles. So there's no reason to hurry through it. But once you've installed confidence that you know exactly what they have in their driveway, then you want to take a minute and you want to explain that. I want to take the time to explain exactly what happens when you drop your car off at our shop, or I want to explain exactly what happens when I come to your house, if you're a mobile detailer. And so at that point, I know everyone does things a little bit different. So that's where we take the time to explain paint correction or paint enhancement or whatever you want to call it buff polish. But when you take the time to explain it, that's what they want to hear that 90% of the other people didn't explain. You can slap ceramic on anything, but you have to prep the surface first. And so taking the time to explain the number of man hours involved with prepping the surface, that is huge. Explain paint correction. Everyone has, whether you do a single stage, a multi-stage, whether you're finishing with a high gloss enhancer, whatever it is that you're doing, explain it. The next thing that we go into, when we say the second thing that we do once we have your vehicle, and we all know there's more than 2 or 3 things, but what does the customer need to know? Paint corrections. Second thing is decontamination. I think that's important because people don't understand that you have to strip everything off of every part of the plastic moldings, trim, wheel wells, glass, everything before you can apply ceramic. And so that is a huge selling point. And if you're not talking about it, you're not building the value necessary to get a higher ticket item sale. So you have to take the time to explain paint correction, decontamination. And then when it comes down to ceramic, every ceramic coating company has their benefits. But that is one of the things that you can find uniquely. There's got to be qualities in every ceramic that anyone puts on a vehicle. So, there's 3 years, there's 5 years. We use an 8-year. But building value in that company, when the company we use, we have an exclusive with a company out of Japan called Sencha. They're the oldest ceramic coating company in the entire world. They've been perfecting their product for 25 years. So if you take the time to explain why your product is superior, in our case, we have an exclusive for the United States. You can't get it anywhere else. But there are benefits to every ceramic coating company out there. So find the benefits in the product that you're selling. We actually apply 3 different ceramics and a tire crystal. And again, customers want to know, well, what are you going to put this on? Don't leave them guessing. We're going to cover, like our shop, we cover everything with the exception of the license plate and the inside of the side mirrors. So when you explain every single thing in detail, then you have done your job. And then you go to what we call transition to the sale. Now, you just answered every question. You've explained everything that they needed to know about the ceramic coating process. The last thing to talk to is scheduling and pricing. And that's where you transition to the sale. There's nothing more to talk about in the rest of that, nothing more to ask about their car. So when we transition to the sale, we basically just go straight to, pricing is easy. Just let them know straight up front, pricing is easy, scheduling is a bit tougher, and so everyone wants what they can't have. And unfortunately, I don't have a spot on next week's schedule for anyone unless I happen to have a reschedule. And we book about 20 cars a week, so I can always count on at least 2 reschedules. We require 10% deposit, so we don't get any cancellations. We just get reschedules. But when you go through that transition to a sale, it makes it really simple when you just spat out your pricing. So in our case, we have a set price, we have a discounted price, and then we have an absolute flat bottom price for, say, a returning customer. Obviously, we'll always take care of someone that's coming back in on a second, third, or fourth vehicle. So our sales team knows you got your retail, you got your discount, and typically a discounted price would be to fill that reschedule. And so that works great for us in the transition to the sale. If I know that I typically will always need 2 new jobs to fill in a couple of reschedules, we just honestly say, hey, do us a favor. If you want to take this spot, we'll take $200 off, but you'd have to drop your car. So we make it a kind of a conditional close, but you'd have to drop your car off on Monday or Wednesday. And then, so getting back to scheduling is tough and pricing is easy. Even though you're talking maybe about a $2,500 price point, what you really want to do in our case, and everyone does it different, but I need to get away from the 23 to 2,500, and I need to get into the what it takes to get on my schedule. And so we require a 10% deposit. So really what we're talking about today is not 2,300, we're talking about $230. And a lot of I guess we'll segue into this, but a lot of our clients, when they come to us, they've already seen our reviews. And or they've came in off of, referrals from other customers, or they've seen your retargeting over and over and over, and satisfied customer out of satisfied customer out of satisfied customer. We've never had a 4-star review. We all we collect is 5. So a lot of these customers, the confidence is already there because of what we've posted previously online that you've advertised. So, but at the end of the day, you just want to get away from the overall cost because they don't pay the balance until they pick up their car. And you just want to mainly talk about what day is the best day to drop off. And in order to get on the schedule, we take a 10% deposit. That'd be $230.
So
what's best?
So when you make that transition from the benefits of ceramic coatings, what you're going to do with the paint correction into the sale, why is it more important to lean on the scheduling versus the pricing?
Well, if you got 2 restaurants and one's empty and one's completely full, you're automatically going to gravitate towards the one that's full. People, they want what they can't have, and we're always full. If I have 2 drop off my schedule for whatever rescheduling reasons, I can fill those up really quick. So I think it has to do with supply and demand. If you watch any of our, and we're going to talk about content, but if you watch any of our Bob Moses here in Austin content, we always have a full shop. And that's one thing that attracts more customers. And we have a lot of customers that say, when's your next opening? Because they know we're full, so much work attracts more work.
So would you say that same concept applies with somebody who has a wide open schedule, not only this week, but next week? Would you say to that person to still say, hey, next week I'm booked out, I'll see if I have a reschedule, to kind of employ those same tactics?
Similar tactics, yeah, but you always want to maintain your personal integrity. So don't say you're booked out if you're not booked out. There's a lot of other ways to say it. Like, I have an opening on Monday. If you can take my opening, I can do this for you. But we're booked out. So the being booked out that's what works for us. But again, just personal integrity is everything. So figure out a different way to explain why you need their car on Monday and why you're willing to do a discount on Monday, or why Thursday, or why, you've got, between 8 and 5 on Saturday that you can work on their vehicle. Whatever the reason is, just be honest about it and ask them for a favor. Here in Texas, when I say, if you can do me a favor and take my empty spot, I'll do you a favor and this. And you can tell they put their thinking cap on and go, yeah, I can do Monday. Great. How do you want to pay your deposit?
Okay. So when you give pricing and then you transition to scheduling them in, you mentioned earlier that you have 3 pricing, right? The retail price, the discounted price, and then the absolute rock bottom price. How many, or what does the breakdown look like for, people biting at the retail price, the discounted price, and then the absolute rock bottom price?
So pricing, it's tough for me to give pricing. So what we do and the service that we perform, I'm sure we do things different. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is showrooming a car. So it's more than just ceramic coating. When we give that car back, it's in showroom ready condition. And so I know everyone does things a little bit different, whether it's a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year ceramic, but at the end of whatever your price point is, you do need to have, in my opinion, 3 different prices. And one is your firm retail price. That is the price that helps me cover my advertising costs, my commissions. That's my firm price. I do offer a small discount if I need your car, but it's never a discount for the next 20 cars. It's like, hey, I got someone rescheduled on Monday. If you can take their spot, do me a favor, take the spot, and I'll do you a favor and save you some money. So you can go from a firm retail price to a discounted price for a favor. And then you have the third price. And, I do a lot of firefighters. If you ever watch any of our videos, I've done probably more than 15, say 20 plus firefighters for actual personal vehicles and fire trucks. So my bottom line price includes your first responders, your firefighters, your utility workers. And so it's always good to have that repeat customer price. If someone says, hey, you just did this car, what about my wife's car? Well, guess what? I don't have to pay commission on that wife's car. And I didn't have to pay advertising on that wife's car. So I saved, X amount of dollars, and I can pass that off to the customer. So maintaining your integrity on your price points is the best way for all of us to keep value in what we're doing. What I cannot stand seeing is where someone's offering no offense to anyone here, but offering a $499 ceramic coating job. I'm sorry, but unless your time's worthless, it's tough to paint correct a vehicle properly decon, and then apply a good ceramic, a quality ceramic, and make any money at $499. You certainly couldn't afford to advertise. So some of those little clickbait things are hurting the industry. But when you set a price and you explain how good you are at what you do, we want to maintain the value in ceramic, and undercutting each other doesn't help. What helps is when you build value in what you got and you ask for the amount of money that it requires to get your job done. Put it that way.
Okay. So just to recap, we introduce ourselves to that lead, we get the conversation going. We transition that to building rapport, complimenting their vehicle, really making sure that the lead on the other end knows that we know exactly what's in their driveway, what they're wanting to get ceramic coated, just to kind of make it seem like what they have is, it's
worth ceramic coating.
Yeah, it's worth ceramic coating. Well played. And then we transition into explaining the paint correction process in a very easy to understand way for that lead.
Yes.
Same thing with ceramics. So real quick, I just want to go back to how you explain that in an easy to understand way to that lead. I'm assuming you're not going into like the jargon of detailing, right? You're breaking it down in a way, you're using analogies to kind of help explain what you're talking about.
Correction, you never know what type of paint correction you're going to do until you see the vehicle, until you're standing there looking at the vehicle, whether it's, regardless, we multi-stage everything. So multi-stage is what we do, no matter, I don't care if it's a brand new vehicle, but when you take the time to explain that, even in paint correction, how we start with a heavy cut pad, and what that's going to do is remove your heavy scratches, scrapes, anything humanly possible. I mean, don't overpromise what you can't do, but anything humanly possible that we can remove with the heavy cut pad is what we do. It's going to remove your swirl marks, your scratches, scrapes, your damage. And then you explain what a medium cut pad does. It brings out a really deep shine and more scratches and scrapes. And then you finish with your final cut, which we use a product that's a high gloss enhancer. So if you take the time to explain what that is, and even if you paint the picture that we're going to polish your vehicle out 2 or 3 times, anyone who's ever polished a vehicle out, that's a lot of work, a lot of man hours. So and again, I know a lot of businesses, they single stage, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Single stage is fine. We explain it in a way in our shop, because we haven't seen the car yet, but we multi-stage everything that comes through.
Okay. And then we have a great question here from Tim McKinney or Kennedy. He asked, Ray, would you be willing to share the various discounts by percentages with the retail? I'm assuming it's the normal price and then the rock bottom price. Like how far in between are those numbers?
Roughly 10%.
Roughly 10%. Okay.
Your average ticket is $1,500. 10% of that would be a $150 discount. If you can fill a spot that you need, and maybe another 10% if it's a returning customer. But everyone has their own overhead. I have extreme overhead, just having a shop and 6 shop guys. I mean, my payroll's heavy, so I always have to make sure that we stay within our benchmarks.
Okay. And then before we go ahead and transition to talking about content, I do want to touch on objection handling, right? So assuming the sale goes perfectly as planned, you'll get the deposit, get them booked in, give them that rescheduled discount if it applies. But let's go ahead and talk about the most common objections. I think the 3 most common ones are, let me think about it, let me talk with my wife, and then probably related to another discounts, but we kind of tackle that before we even get to that point. So I think let me think about it is probably the most common one, and let me talk with my wife. If there's any other ones, go ahead and type them into the Zoom chat, and then we'll go ahead and kind of go over them. But for the first 2, yeah, let me think about it.
So it's not as much. So if you go through the scripting that we went through, the way our scripting works, and I believe the way yours works also, is kind of an objection elimination. So the reason that you're thorough is you eliminate most objections before they even come up. And that's why you need to explain all that. So when you get to the very end, we both know that the only thing stopping them is the money. I don't care I've got a wife, and we talk about everything. So I understand that. I respect you need to talk to your wife. I respect you need to think about it. I respect the fact that you may or may not have the money to do it. But at the end of the day, it's always the money stopping them. And so if you can narrow it down to the money stopping them, I know you got to talk to your wife, but if your wife likes the idea of doing it and you wanted to do it, Do you have the money to do it? Do you have a credit card you can put it on? So it really gives you a chance to, it's always the money. If it was $10, people would say yes. But somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000, they need to think about it. So if you can, no matter what the reason is, they're all valid reasons. But if you narrowed it down to the money, then you've got one talking point. When's a better time to call you back? And you realize it only takes a 10% deposit to get on our schedule today. And we could book you out in 30 days. Would that give you enough time to get the rest of the money together? It's just when you take the time in your beginning to get to know the customer, now you're on a friendship basis. You have one thing in common. He's got the car and we're willing to work on it. So you get to know the customer really well, and there's nothing wrong with customer needing to think about it. There's not a magic answer for that. It's totally okay. So when's the best time? Can you get your wife? Do you want me to explain this to your wife? I might explain it to you, but you might not do a good job explaining it to her. Is she around? Would she, but sometimes, if you're having fun with the customer, I've never created a divorce ever, whether you talk to your wife or not, doing selling ceramics. So either way, just have fun with the customer. Treat them as if they're your best friend, and that's the way it should be in business, period.
Love it. Okay, so we have another great question or objection that we have a client running into. They say, what about this objection? My car's paint is perfect and it doesn't need paint correction. Can I just get the ceramic coating?
So let's talk about that perfect car. And I might suggest, if you really want a concrete answer for that, look at my post about 4 weeks ago. I did a BMW. It's that new electric one, $180,000 car. And they brought the car directly from the factory to us. We're talking as brand new as it gets. But if you take the time to know what brand new is, brand new might be brand new to you. But let's break this down. When a car comes off an assembly line, let's just talk to the basics to the customer. A car comes off the assembly line. The way it goes through the assembly line, they spray on your primer. They come back, they spray on your paint, and they spray on your clear coat. So unless you polish it, no one's ever polished out that car. And so as opposed to a car just being sprayed on by the assembly line, you can make a car so much better with paint correction. So we won't apply ceramic in any circumstance unless we prep the surface, because we have high levels of expectations for our shop. And I'm telling you, assembly line. So car comes out of the assembly line. So the same BMW, let's go a little bit further and you'll see it in my post about a month ago. This car came from Germany, which is tens of thousands of miles away. It got put in a shipping container by humans. It traveled here on a boat. Then it got put in a parking lot before it got put on a car hauler and brought to Austin. 9 cars fit on a car hauler. So and then when it got to Austin, how many people took it off that car hauler, left it in a parking lot until you bought it? So look at the journey that brand new car had before the owner had the keys. There's a million reasons why paint correction, it is a must, but more importantly, we won't touch a car unless we prep the surface. So.
Love it. Love it. Okay, awesome. So I think
explaining the assembly line just shows your customer how educated you are. And then explaining your car set in a parking lot, how many people test drove your car. There's a lot of reasons that you can explain that brand new is not brand new. And even if it did come straight off the assembly line, we can still make it better.
So you're telling me that showroom shine is a lie? I'm just kidding.
Well, there's nothing prettier than a brand new car, except for a brand new car that's been ceramic coated.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of what you touched on earlier with like getting in front of those objections, educating, giving that full picture really does tie into the content that we're putting out on the ads, on the Facebook page, Instagram page, just what the customer is getting directly from our business. So let's go ahead and dive right into the content and how that helps the selling side become a lot easier by being proactive, getting in front of those objections, educating. At a high level, can you talk about your video content strategy that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, so I'm very conscious of what content, whether it be pictures or whether it be a video, what we put up, because it completely represents our brand. And Matt Moses out of Phoenix, he cares about his brand more than anything. He cares about customer satisfaction. So when it comes down to content, like you'll never see me post a meme. You'll never see me post anything vulgar. everything represents our brand. So basically every single post that we do, it is showcasing a vehicle that we've completed. So typically the three different posts that we do more than three, but the three that we capture is on Mondays, vehicles get dropped off. Drop-off days at our shop is Monday and Wednesday. Monday's cars, they leave on Wednesday, they're all done. Wednesday's cars leave on Friday, or RVs, or whatever the case is. But based upon our car schedule, Wednesdays I have the most amount of cars at my shop, because I've got Mondays leaving and Wednesdays dropping off. So Wednesday, we always like to do week at a glance, and that's where we showcase all the vehicles coming and going. On Fridays, we always like to feature a vehicle, the best one of the week, whether it's like this week, we featured a Harley Road Glide. I just posted it right before this meeting. But yeah, so you feature your vehicles, I walk them through the shop. On Mondays, Tuesday, we call it Polish Tuesdays because we've got 6 polishers going all at the same time. It's pretty cool sound. But yeah, it's just whatever content that you post. So I personally like video content. And the reason, and everyone watching this knows this, if you're on Facebook, if you ever watch a company's video, when that video ends, there's usually the same company below it and below it and below it. So it's real easy to get a stream from, like with our advertising, it's real easy to see video after video after video after video after video. So I even started dating my videos. Like today's, you'll see May 17th, you'll see May 15th. So that way our customers know how busy we are, how many cars, how experienced that we have. It builds confidence. So, but I'm telling you, your posts represent yourself, represent your brand. Be very careful about what you post. And then that also takes me to the point where I boost a lot of posts, and everyone knows you got that little boost button, but I've created my own audience with the help of Facebook, where I've selected every car maker, manufacturer, everything. And I also selected my gender. My typical client is a 35 to 56-year-old male. So you can get into, but it just, when you spend $5, $10, $20 on boosting a post, it gets my phone to ring. So outside of what me and you do, Salvador, that's an easy thing that anyone can take upon themselves to boost a post. Hit the call now button and you've created an inbound for yourself. But more importantly, it helps you create better posts, because why would you post something up that you're not willing to spend $5, $10, $20 on?
Love it.
I'm willing to throw money at what I post, and it makes my posts better.
Awesome. So let's go deeper into the kind of videos that you're making. So what are you talking about in that video?
So basically my scripts. So one of the videos I usually do once a month is what to expect when you drop your vehicle off. And so that is basically going over our scripting, what to expect. The only difference is I personally like to use illustrations. Oops, hold on. Are you there? Okay, I'm back. Yeah. Hey, Jeannie, would you give me a power cord for my phone, please? But where are we at? So boosting posts, sorry about that. Where are we at?
We are talking about what you're talking about in that video, the what to expect.
So what to expect, that is a really, really good one. That's one of the videos that you don't want to just leave on YouTube, on Facebook. You also want to put it on YouTube. That way, if a customer, say you have a customer that's interested, but not quite over the fence yet, then you want to send that customer reasons to get involved. If a customer wants to think about it, no problem, but you're going to get probably 5 or 6 other truck pictures, just like your pickup truck, to help you think about it. You're probably even going to get a YouTube video that explains exactly what we're going to do when you drop your vehicle off at our shop, to help you think about it. So then when we follow up, you took someone who wanted to think about it, and you provided what you'd call supporting documentation to get that sale. And so when we explain, what we do, a lot of times I'll have a Makita polisher, because this polisher is not typically something you're going to have in your garage if you're just a regular car enthusiast. So you break down your polish, I break down pad, I break down what we do, and it really helps the customer understand why our price is probably more than other people.
Okay. And then, so in that what to expect video, you're breaking down basically what we already talked about earlier with that sales script, going into detail on what the paint correction process looks like, the benefits of the coatings. You're using your tools to kind of help illustrate that. Are there any other type of videos that you make that help kind of educate that lead?
No, the once a month I will typically do the what to expect, and that's where I use illustrations, and I've got a couple cards behind me that I walk around and feature. So when we're talking about metal plating ceramic, I can feature a rim, but Anyway, so still pictures work really good. Still pictures are great. We get a lot of likes on still photos, but every one of our photos, we take the time to clear the shop. You don't want your rags, your towels, your equipment. We make it where that photo, it's basically, magazine worthy. So, and that's what customers want to see. And it's amazing how many customers, like I had a customer yesterday, just, hey, I was watching for my Ford Explorer. I haven't seen it yet. And we feature my truck, so people love it and they look for their vehicles and they spread the good news about what we do.
Yeah. And something we've noticed as on the advertising side is what we tend to put out there in terms of vehicles. Like we want to advertise the kind of vehicles that you want to see as leads, right? So when you're breaking down your process in that video, I've noticed that your videos aren't like, you don't have a camera guy, right? They're not overproduced. They're shot on a phone, correct?
Yeah, and they're just shot with the phone. There's a tool that I use. It's a DJI, little handheld stick that just keeps the camera from bouncing when you walk. It kind of levels things out. It's kind of like what you put on drones, but it's like $100 at Best Buy. But that really, really does help because that stick, I can walk through the shop and it makes it a lot more professional. But I don't use anything other than an iPhone, and I rarely used to ever use that stick. But once you got that stick, it's awesome. But yeah, it does make it a little bit better. Whenever you're doing a video, it's always good to introduce yourself. I'm Ray, Bob Mo the Ceramic Coating here in Austin. Want to do a quick walk through the shop. So videos, I think a lot of people shy away from them because they're not camera friendly, or they just don't want to be in front of a camera. But it's real simple. When you announce who you are, my name is Ray. I'm with Bob Mo the Ceramic Coating. Announce your location. We're here in Austin, and there's nothing wrong with saying call us for a quote. But it's that simple wording that while you're standing behind the camera that you can shoot the video of the pickup truck or the motorcycle. And then when it comes down to shooting, everyone, I just think it's important that there's a term called fill the frame. So instead of shooting the car from way back here, you want to have the complete car in the frame of the video. So, I mean, you can take an iPhone and do about anything that anyone else could.
Awesome. And then, so we're explaining the process in that video. You have a ton of videos on your Facebook page. Are they all different? Are you, basically
Well,
go ahead.
It's now that we've been, we don't create new ways of doing it. We just repeat the same ways. Different day, different vehicle, different featured vehicle. Like today I featured two vehicles. I featured a 44-foot Integra Anthem 44-foot RV, beautiful 2016 coach. RVs are great. We charge by the linear foot, so that rocks. And the customer response, they love it when they get it done. It's the best the RV's ever looked. I also featured a Harley. So you can pick and choose, but next week will be different vehicles. And that constant change of vehicles is what makes a lot of people, obviously, you know what you're doing if people keep bringing new cars to you.
Yeah. And so you're not talking about different talking points. You're not recreating an entirely new video. It's just a different vehicle in the background, but you're touching on the same points, which is what we mentioned in the script. Awesome.
And it gets easier every time you do it, because the next time you do it, you're just repeating what you did last time. And so after you've done it 52 weeks, now it's just showing up, doing it. And, in minutes, you can create content that brings in more people going, give me a quote, give me a quote. I think we have about 600, you'd know as well as I do, Salvador, but I think we have about 600 people a month asking for quotes. And when those 600 people ask for quotes, we capture their data through Facebook. We retarget to those 600 people. So I really care about our content, because those people that are asking for quotes, our content's going to be shoved in front of their face through retargeting moving forward. So again, you just want to be careful of your content, make everything that you post count, and professional, very professional.
Awesome. I think that covers it all. We've gone through the script in great detail, both at a high level and like the talking points. We talked about content, how to create it, the key talking points on that. And by the way, so everybody in here has access to our video content guide, where we actually broke down how to create a very similar video to what we're talking about here. So that's a reference or a resource that's amazing. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and just open it up to open floor Q&A. I'll go ahead and start with Tim and just kind of go left to right from what I see here on my screen. So we'll go ahead and just open it up to open floor Q&A. We'll give each person about 2 minutes and then I'll go to the next person. So Tim, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I put it in the chat. I think Patrice answered this question last week. I just want to see what Ray's take it is on this question. Basically, when a lead comes in or calls in or text and they want the quote right off the bat, they want to know nothing about the process, they just want the quote, basically just want a painless, 1 or 2 minute conversation. They don't want to see or hear what the process is, what the product is, what we do for preparation. What do you do? How do you deal with that objection to push off the pricing, the quote for the last step of the call or a text?
So that there's not a whole lot you can do with that customer other than just throw out a quick quote. Being in sales for many, many years, taking control of the conversation is one thing that I and our salespeople do. So our salespeople will take the time to explain. It's my job to explain what you're getting for the money. So they will almost insist that they had the opportunity to explain it. But again, you can't overcome a Facebook person that just says, I only want the quote. I only want the cost. Give them the cost. You can't sell all. So give them the cost and maybe schedule a time where you can spend a few minutes going a little further into detail. I would even prep it with, let me give you the cost, but I want to schedule a time where I can go into what we do different as a shop or as a detailer or as a ceramic coater than you're going to find anywhere else. Give them a reason to have that conversation. But yeah, you can't beat them all.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. Okay, so I didn't realize we had 2 Tims in here, so I'm gonna ask the other Tim to go ahead and unmute. Tim, go ahead.
All right, I'm here. I agree with you, Ray, on that too, because one of the things that we follow up back on that with when they're really wanting to migrate to the price real quick, one of the questions we ask, well, it sounds like to me that based on your question that you're more concerned about price than you are value or quality. And then, you can't shy away from still giving them a dollar figure because they're more likely price shopping. So, you can't shy away from saying, sound like you're price shopping. 1, 2 things, one, it does sound like you're more concerned about that and your quality. And then 2, as you're doing it, how can I help you spend your money wisely and be an advocate for your dollar so that you're actually doing an apple to apple comparison? And then when you take that side and step over into their realm, a lot of times I'll give them extra information, say, well, here are some questions that will help you as you're asking other people what their prices are. Here's what you need to know as you're doing that. And I've had them leave from us, make those conversations and come back and go, you explained more to me in 2 minutes than they did in 10. So people appreciate when you are that advocate. I'm going to send you a message, Ray, because there's a couple things. I like your sales experience. I've been in that realm for a while myself. I've been an entrepreneur for
just listening to you talk, you got sales down. You definitely got objection down, objection eliminated. You definitely have a sales back hearing you talk. So
I appreciate it. You can't be afraid to avoid the obvious things. I mean, you got to go back and say, well, it sounds like, or, things of that nature. And really, any way that we can not try to be the hero ourselves, but make them the hero is really the objective because they want to win in the end. And sometimes your educational process will show them where they're lacking as they're shopping. Yeah, you got a price for $500 for ceramic coating. So let's talk about that. Here are some talking points that you need to have as you're calling around, so those kind of things. So yeah, we try to become the advocate on their behalf. And whether or not they come back in at that moment or not, they'll remember that. And, they'll ask those questions. But Ray, thanks for your time on here. I'm going to shoot you a message because I'd love to hear some of your pricing models of what you do. You actually have a vehicle coming to you that your guys' price was better than ours. So you'll have to hug our customer's neck when he gets over there. So it's Integra, and I'm in South Atlanta.
Got it.
Henry County. The Integra that you've got on the way, I talked to him. He's a neat guy, so you'll enjoy that. But good guy.
We finished an Integra and released it today, and man, those are so much fun to work on. Just one of the things Salvador and I are doing, we're launching a new campaign that's just for RV. That's one thing that our shop does, having a bay shop. I turned down I don't have enough bays, so I've got 2 being constructed right now.
And that's us. I mean, we have square footage, but the square footage, we have to make it make sense because of the 4,000 square foot shop. When you put that in here, it kind of shuts us down. So we have to price it for what that space is valuable for at the moment. So our price is going to be higher, in that sense. So we are looking at that for future stuff. But I would love to talk to you about pricing and stuff like that, but I'll do that on a personal basis. I'll reach out to you on email. But thanks for your time. And there's a lot to be learned from those of us that have been around for a minute, but then two, from the guys that are just getting started and finding out what the struggles are. And then two, anytime you hear a finger to the pulse on what goes wrong, in the other parts of the country, it's good to bring those up so we can learn to overcome the objections as they come up.
Yeah. Well, good luck in Atlanta.
Thank
Love
you.
it. Thank you. I'm going to pass the mic over to Patrice.
Hey, Ray.
Hey, what's going on, Patrice?
Not much you. Busy, almost as busy as you are.
I see what you're doing. You got good stuff going on.
Thanks. I was going to touch base on that. You said that your background is building businesses, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah. So I've always marketed myself as a business growth specialist. So growing a company, whether it's my own company as an entrepreneur or going into a company and tripling their sales, that's kind of my background.
Okay.
ROI, return on investment, I'm more of a business analyst. So I'm fairly new to the ceramic coating, detailing, showrooming, card business, but I'm not short on business experience when it comes to sales, marketing, advertising.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll shoot you an email regarding that because I think you might be able to help me if you have the time. If you have the time to, we can have a chat regarding that because I can sense I'm kind of itching to that next level. I have a gut feeling. I just have that gut feeling.
Awesome. I want to hear it.
My gut never let me down. It's just I want to make sure that I'm doing it the right way. And if there are any things like that it needs to be changed or any way that to make it more feasible and a positive manner, I'm open to it. So, okay. Thanks, Ray.
Sounds
good.
great.
Good.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dan. Dan, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Hey, Jeannie, can you give me a power cord? My phone's about to go dead.
All right, Dan, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Dan.
Okay. Good. Usually have mic problems with this computer, so.
Yeah. Any questions for Ray?
Really? I did have something. Oh, it's kind of unrelated, or maybe it is, but I had a thought the other day. So I've been doing like the good, better, best model forever for
Pricing?
detailing, for ceramic coatings. And now I don't have any detailing work. It's all ceramic coatings and it's all because of Sal, which I'm very grateful for. But so I got 3 different ceramic coatings. I've got my 1 year, which is a nice entry level. I got the 3 year and I've got a 5 year, which I consider my top tier. And the thought occurred to me the other day. I said, what if I were to, and because of sales ads and everything, for this month, I had no annual ones, no 1 year coatings. It was all 3 year or 5 year. And what I was sitting there thinking is, what if I were to just drop the 1 year, 3 year and just have the 5 year? And then I was thinking, well, the 5 year, we could do it 2 different ways, give you 2 different options. We could just coat the paint, or we can coat everything and just have 2 different packages for paint and everything. And just go that route with the business and with the ceramic coatings. And if that's something that I should just jump right into, or if it's something I should continue to kind of transition to.
Great question.
So I didn't fully understand the actual question itself, but I do understand that that you have multiple packages, that you have your better and your best. If I heard that correctly, you have your 1, 3, and 5 year. I think a lot of the people that are shopping around, they've all heard about, your car wash stuff where you got your bronze, your silver, your gold, your platinum. I think just coming from sales, that's what everyone does. And so we only do one thing. We only apply one coating. Well, we only apply, it's an 8-year coating, but we only sell one thing. And we don't offer just paint or all the vehicle. We don't offer just windows or wheels or windows. We showroom a car, which means every car leaves in the exact same condition, everything coated. So, and we do have the option of a 3 or a 5-year, I believe, through Cincha, but we only apply one, and we only have one price point. So that's just, I do think that the industry has overplayed the gold, bronze, silver. But I do know that sales wise, it's always important to give a customer 3 choices, So if it wasn't already overplayed, the smart thing to do is give them a choice, because they always typically go for the middle choice, So I understand the sales aspect of it, but I just can't stand that all these car washes, everyone's doing that, okay, better, best, immaculate, So I don't know. Every car that comes through gets the same exact service. When I say showroom, some of the little things I know everyone is doing is like even the engine cowl or the windshield cowl, where the windshield comes down, the strip between the hood and there, that's something that needs to be treated on almost every car that's a year old. So those little things are why we do one service for every car that comes through. So,
And then, so Ray, just curious, what do you say to people who ask about those different packages? Like, they're like, oh, that's the 8-year, it's $2,500. Do you guys have anything like a 3-year where it's a little bit less?
no one, we don't get, do you have a lesser product? We sell them on what we do and what we got and what it costs.
Okay.
The main thing is build value. Our price point is not for everyone, but if you go through some of our videos, like last week and the week before, I always do week at a glance, and I typically post up what cars we have come through. So out of 20 cars, 8 or 9 of them will be 2023s. 6 or 7 of them will be 2022s, and rarely I will have a 17, 18, or 19. But we do a lot of sports cars, classic cars. But again, it has a lot to do with your video posts. I post up a lot of new cars, so I get more new cars. So, but yeah, we have one thing that we do on every vehicle that comes through, and that's showroom the entire car.
Another key point there. Yeah, what you guys put in those videos are exactly the kind of leads that will come in. And that's really how you go about, like, a lot of detailers talk about, appealing to that higher end market. That's exactly how you appeal to them. You show them that, hey, we have a car similar to yours. We have a ton of experience with those type of vehicles, those higher end cars. And that's really how you get that reputation over time of appealing to that higher end market.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get a discount on a Rolex, and you just can't. There's supply and demand, so there is a benefit to maintaining that price. And there's a huge benefit to explaining why you are at that price and everyone else is cheaper. These people, if you just take the time to think about it, and this comes from Google, but the average entry level of vehicle right now is almost $50,000. The average entry level luxury vehicle, which is like your bottom class Mercedes, starts at like $72,000. Pickup trucks range from 50 to 130, depending on whether it's a dually, diesel. But these people, they're invested. Most people take out a 5 to 7 year loan on a car. You at least want your paint to last as long as your loan, right? Protecting your vehicle just makes sense.
Another key point there. So Ray is probably in one of the most competitive markets there is, right? Same with a lot of the other Bob Moses locations. So when you position yourself through video of you working on those higher end vehicles, it helps you stand out a lot more. You're getting your face out there, you're building trust, credibility, you seem like an expert. So it really does help a lot, not just like overcoming the objections, but really positioning yourself as that shop that, that higher end market can just gravitate towards.
Yeah. One thing, it is a very competitive market in Austin. It's almost too competitive. But on the flip side, I stay firm on my price point, because we won't do a lesser job on a car. They're getting the same service no matter what price point I'm at. But also here in Austin, we are like the new Silicon Valley. Tesla Gigafactories just moved in here recently. We got Facebook, we got Google, we got HP, we got Oracle. So if you learn a little bit about your consumer, my consumer, 60 to 70% of them come from the tech industry. They're high paid customers. This is Austin. So getting into dropping, I don't say dropping your pants, but dropping because you need the job. It only hurts the industry. Stay firm and explain exactly why they need to spend this money on their vehicle.
Love it. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Khalil. Khalil, I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute, and then we'll go ahead and just get you add pin.
Sorry about that.
All
Yo,
good.
Ray. Hope all is well, my man. I'm good to go. I don't have any questions, so I'm
Hey,
good.
hold on. I want to talk to you, but I'm in my RV and my dog's. Let me just put my dog.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
All good. All good.
The RV lifestyle works for me a lot.
Ah, I love it.
Awesome. So, Khalil, you're all good?
Yep. Good to go.
All right.
Hello, good to see you, man.
You as well. You as well.
Oh, by the way, while we have everybody here, Ray, are you going to be going to SEMA?
I don't have the plans soon.
Man, you should
As
go.
much as I'd love to go, and I'll probably go in the future. I just have a lot of things going on.
Okay. I'll definitely try to go this year. I know Khalil's going.
Take
Who else is
pictures.
going here? Patrice, you
I'm
got to
going.
go, man.
Yeah, I'm going. I'll be at the Legend booth for PPF.
Okay.
So I'll be there installing. So
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, I hope to see a lot of you there. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Ray, thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Good to see everyone again.
Alrighty.
same
See you
thing
guys.
here, Ray.